tonight's guest speaker is Bob Gell from GELCO, and he's going to talk about the Electric Vehicle Symposium EVS-30 at Stuttgart that he went to. Yep. And you delivered a paper there, so take it away.
Evening, folks. Good to be able to be back and have another chat with you. Hope you're all well, and I hope the EV drivers are all happy people now that you're starting to see a lot more charging stations on the road. I must admit, about 3 years ago when I stood here and we talked about charging stations, I think there was the 2 in Central Market, and that was about it at that time. But certainly there's dozens now, which is good. I'm going to Eric. Do you have the controller, or? I'm going to give you a rundown on the world's largest electric vehicle symposium. This particular one is number 30. That means there's been 30 of those of the symposiums to that point in time. Oh, you haven't got me loaded yet. The symposium is presented throughout the Northern Hemisphere continents. I'm hoping that it'll get to Australia one day, but we have to have a lot more interest in electric vehicles before the international controlling body will consider coming down below the equator. So this is EVS number 30. You'll be staggered when you see what goes on at that event. It's held around every 18 months in a different continent. I've been to the last 5 of those. So we've been to places like Barcelona and Seoul, and obviously America, and a number of locations in America and Europe. And the last one was in Stuttgart. Now, one of the exciting things about this particular event is that it's recognised as the engineering forum for electrification and electric vehicles in the world. It's not just about cars, it's about electrification. So light commercial vehicles, heavy commercial vehicles, electric buses, electric boats, and aircraft. So there's quite a mix of interest there. It is not a sales event. Pretty hard to spot a salesman in the auditorium. However, the car companies, particularly those where their country of origin is hosting the event, the car companies, of course, try to outdo each other with the most grand stand and what have you of their vehicles. It is also a concept show. By that I mean a company like Honda or a company like BYD may present their future fuel cell vehicle or their future electric vehicle and so on. So it gets very good car company representation. This one being in Germany, of course, Volkswagen, BMW, obviously Audi, part of the Volkswagen group, Mercedes, they were heavily represented with their range of electric cars. So you see a lot of what at these symposiums, you see a lot of what is eventually going to find its way down to Australia when obviously standards are settled and opportunities present themselves. Am I left one to go up, Eric, or right? Ah, there we are. So the Electric Vehicle Symposium and Exhibition was held last year in October. It was the most important industry meeting for the entire electromobility industry. Manufacturers, users, decision makers, we all get a pretty good picture of what it's about. And I guess over the years I've presented 2 engineering papers, one in Barcelona and the other one in Los Angeles, on what our company has been doing and what our role has been in electromobility in Australia. It's every 12 to 18 months. You can see the type of audience is researchers, government reps, industry people from around the world. We get together, and sure, there's a lot of networking, a lot of bullshit goes on, but it is an outstanding engineering event. And if you've got a new product or a new service that you're going to be wanting to bring to industry, this is the forum where it's done. And we get a lot of presentations, which I'll show you shortly. It attracts 5,500 delegates each day. It runs for 4 days. There's 650 exhibitors and 1,200 lecturers in 3 streams of lecture hall stuff. That's just a snapshot of some of the poster here. Sorry about the poor quality, but there we are. And I guess that those, you can see by those, when you think of all these guys are engineering type people, no, there's no schools, no public, nothing like that. It's pure nuts and bolts type stuff. It's an outstanding event. It is very expensive. It costs you about, I think my fare, my entrance, I'm a presenter and a coordinator, and I still pay $2,400 for every time I go for the 4 days. So it is an expensive event, which means you don't get the tyre kickers there. You only get the real people there that have got an interest in it. So that's the type of activity that goes on. The main themes of EVS-30, and by the way, EVS-31, which is this year, it's going to be in Kobe in Japan. So you can see how they move around. So obviously that'll have a very strong Asian Japanese influence from an engineering and graduates point of view. So these were the prime elements or the prime themes of the discussion papers and the presentations. Micro-hybrid developments, new lithium chemistries, I can run through some of that activity, new permanent magnet drive systems, which I've been involved with, street access infrastructure, which is one of my key areas of interest with our company, OCPP becoming universal now, so at last the industry is talking on the same language, from charge station to charge station, charge station to car to charge station. So that's been a breakthrough. And fuel cell electric vehicle developments globally. There's quite a bit happening in that space, albeit very, very expensive. But it's very good to be able to see, particularly what Hyundai are doing, and I've done some work with Hyundai for Europe already as a result of that. Yeah. ICPP. Open charge point protocol. Nothing to do with charge point. The company, nothing to do with them. Open charge point protocol. It's a language that's it's free. It's no license, and it's a language that's been developed in the Netherlands for this industry. And pretty exciting because it means now that a lot of people can get into that business. So when you think about the charge point protocol, it's its own proprietary communication network and software attached to it. Then we've got the e-station from Perth and their card smart or smart card system is a different language, and the two don't talk to each other. So you can see the issues that are on the horizon. As far as micro hybrid, that was primarily to do with the 48 volt entrance into the markets. That's what we call in the industry a micro hybrid. It may or may not be a plug-in. However, 90% of the presentations were all focused around plug-in hybrid 48 volt systems. That's seen as the next engineering step towards pure battery electric vehicles as the chemistry catches up to give the longevity for the drives. I'm pretty pleased to say that we're going to see 48 volt. Audi, of course, is already there, but we'll start seeing 48 volt rolling out in the next 12 to 15 months in the industry, and of course that'll revolutionise the vehicles. The vehicles like Outlander PHEV that we know today perform so much better on a 48 volt platform. It's quite amazing. New lithium chemistries. Well, we're familiar with lithium iron phosphate, LiFePO4. It's still, and I might have to refer to some of my chemistry notes, it's still the most stable, recognised chemistry combination for electric vehicle traction batteries. There is other exciting chemistries around that have got a higher specific energy and a higher kilowatt per kilogram capability, such as the next one, lithium ion cobalt oxide. You probably hear a lot of noise about cobalt. Well, cobalt's actually been in lithium iron phosphate since 1996, so it's no big deal. But what they're doing is reducing the iron phosphate and replacing it with cobalt oxide. One of the difficulties of that is that it's unstable under certain charging conditions, and it's not really suitable for electric traction propulsion, but it is very suitable for the laptops and cameras and stuff of that nature. So lithium manganese oxide, LiMN204, it's a probably one of the future chemistries that the industry will settle on once we understand how to properly charge it and keep it stable under temperature extremes, which lithium iron phosphate's very good. I mean, if it's too cold, it doesn't work. So, you know, you're not going to have a situation where you're going to load the battery up, forcing it to deliver energy when it can't, and therefore causing issues. The battery management systems are becoming more sophisticated as these chemistries change. Lithium ion, nickel manganese cobalt oxide, or NMC for short, was the buzzwords around the symposium. Less expensive than lithium iron phosphate, good specific energy, good energy per kilowatt hour per kilogram. A shit of a thing to charge. So there's the challenge for the engineers. We like all the chemical capabilities of it. We like its temperature span, -40 to +80. It still will deliver 90 to 95% of the demand energy. But the issue we've got is how to charge it. And it's not comfortable with regen. And of course, the whole industry is now focusing around regenerative energy. So there's a lot of engineering issues from the chemical-based point of view that the symposium spent a lot of time on. New permanent magnet drive systems. I've been associated with I think I might have told you before, with a company in Israel as a guest of the Israeli state to work with a physicist out of Ukraine and two engineers from Israel, and we've been working on a very, very powerful permanent magnet construction that's going to get closer to unity than anything that the world has yet seen. So that's pretty exciting. I can tell more as we get closer. I've been working with that group now for 3 years, and trips backwards and forwards to Israel. Has anyone actually been to Israel? Yeah, good. Okay. Are you Israeli?
Great-grandma.
Okay, you don't have to answer that question, by the way. That's fine. But you'll understand, Israel is kind of a closed country. And you may not be aware, but it's a Jewish state. You may not be aware that we live in a Christian society pretty much in Australia. But the Christian population of Israel is less than 2%. So my first induction meetings were quite interesting. I had a few things wrong with me. Blue eyes was one of them, of course, and kind of a different looking nose. So I got to the engineering guys and I said, look guys, I'm a Gentile. Let's get it on the table. I'm a Gentile. I'm not a Jew. I'm never going to be a Jew. What you see is what you get. I am circumcised, so all of those questions that are in your mind are now out, right? And I am, but I'm not going to show you. And the end result was a real camaraderie that is difficult to build as an outsider looking in, because they were suspicious because I had a state ID card, which meant I didn't, in Tel Aviv, I didn't have to go where the tourists and the others went. I went where the security guys go. So, you know, I had that sort of protection. Nevertheless, when you're wandering around, because Sunday is a work day in Israel. When the sun goes down, the Shabbat starts on Friday night, and when the sun comes up again on Sunday morning, the Shabbat is finished. and I invariably arrive on the Sunday morning at 5 a.m. into Tel Aviv, and then immediately I grab a driver, because none had drive, grab a driver, and off we go down to where the laboratory was, and they expect me to be working by 7:30, because they start at 7:30, they finish at 4 in the afternoons, but 7:30 start time. So it's a bit of a rugged journey. The flight to get there, I have to travel with El Al. I can't, not allowed to travel unless it's a national airline, which meant I had to fly into London, change planes and fly back to Israel. So it's a 41-hour journey to get there. So I'm not sure why I'm waffling on that stuff, but anyway. This is where we've been developing the permanent magnet work, and it's a joint venture between Israeli government, Israeli state, and some other commercial people from the Jewish sectors of Chicago and New York. Street access infrastructure, there's a lot of activity. There's so many level 2s now that, in the exhibitor hall, Phil, my son who runs the technical operations in our business, Phil and we were just walking past the stuff and, just sick of seeing so many competitive brands of street access infrastructure. Not a lot of DC fast, DC slow, yes, 25 kilowatt, but not, and then you go, there's the usual 50s, but then you get into the exciting stuff. The Porsche stand showed their new 350 kilowatt DC charger. Yeah, wow. And that's 12 minutes for a full charge. And obviously the BYDs and other folks that are building light commercials. So we had 400 kilowatts. The largest one we saw was a 530 kilowatts. Now you need a power station next door to drive that one. Pretty powerful stuff. The OCPP, Open Charge Point Protocol. This has been a major growth stumbling block for many, many years. Since I've been involved since 2008, and it was already an issue back then, is that intercommunication between the car and the charging station, or the charging station and its neighbour. And now, of course, we're going more into the situation where we have multiple charging stations, all load managed, and the end result is that these units have to be able to talk to themselves and manage their loads because the grids can't support it, so particularly in Australia. So OCPP, I have to say, clearing the conference on the last day, it was given the flickers, yep, that's the way to go. Now that's putting a lot of commercial enterprises' noses very well out of joint, because it now means that ChargePoint, the company, can't talk to any other vehicle or charge station in the world until they switch back to something that was free. So, all those people that paid their subscriptions, not in this country, but overseas, their subscriptions for their monthly charging infrastructure are going to have to shift and make a change. Lastly, fuel cell. Quite interesting, fuel cell electric vehicles. There's obviously Hyundai from a commercial point of view, are the closest to becoming real commercial use of FCEV, and in United Kingdom there's quite a number of those vehicles on the road, and when I get into the next phase of this presentation you'll see that that there is a lot of fuel cell activity happening. The main thing is that the nation states, like the countries that are supporting it, are prepared to put the infrastructure in, generate the hydrogen and supply it. However, we've gone to, the industry, as a result of this last conference, has gone to what's called H6 hydrogen, and that's 16,000 psi pressure in your hydrogen tank, and your tank's about the size of that bollard there. So you really are sitting on top of a quite explosive device if something happened. And of course, the filling station is higher. Sorry, question?
Sitting on top of a H bomb.
Yeah, that's H6 it's called, hydrogen bomb. Yeah. But nevertheless, I'm confident that before I fully retire and get out of this industry, I think you'll find that fuel cell will become one of the more boutique style of alternate fuel systems for the vehicles. at the end of the day, it's just an electric vehicle that's its energy doesn't come necessarily from a stored battery. It comes from onboard production into a stored battery. So you've still got the battery pack, although they can pull the battery packs back down to 12 and 14 kilowatt capacities instead of 20s and 30s. Right? Roger.
Bob, back at dot point 3,
Yep.
permanent magnets, you mentioned a thing called approaching unity.
Unity.
Now, can you...
Oh, yeah, okay. It's an engineering term that says you can put this amount of energy in and you're going to get exactly the same out.
Thank you.
Right? But that's been, from a physicist's point of view, that's been the holy grail since Einstein. So, you know, we've got a lot of work to do. We reckon we're up at 98.8 and there's still more work to go. Most PM's permanent magnet motors now are in the sort of 92 to 95 bracket, which is fantastic. This is the next leap. Anyway, right.
Thank you.
Before I just go back there, better show you. Oh, no, we've lost it. Oh, there it is. My moment in fame. That was I was talking to an audience of about, I think it was 1,200 people, 1,200 engineers, and I chaired that session. Well, you can see my height against the professor was dominating, to say the least. My role at EVS this year was I chaired a panel of four presentations over 2 afternoons. Okay. What I wanted to talk about was why did I go to Europe other than EVS, and why do we bother to do this every year? There is such a rapid change happening within the infrastructural side and the car designer's side that unless you go there fairly touchy, it's pretty hard to catch up. As you're probably aware, I mean, how long have we been talking about Ionic coming to Australia? Well, of course, Ionics are everywhere except Australia. However, there's 28 on the road in South Australia, all registered and running around, but they're in a trial situation. So it was good to be able to catch up and see some of the things. Now, this is Amsterdam, and of course the canals, and of course an electric boat. And that's an 1880s design, and I thought, yep, I've got to go for a ride on that. Bugger motor cars. So I said to my wife, I've got a surprise, have your brekkie, we're going to go for a tour around town on an electric vehicle. Oh, not again. When are you going to start talking about? And of course she stepped on this and she said, wow, you got me.
Should have a sticker on the side that's electric.
Yeah.
AEVA sticker.
Yeah, but see, they don't need it because everyone knows it's electric. We're down here and the rest of the world's way out there.
Well, we in Adelaide though.
Yeah. Popeye could become electric, couldn't it? Yeah. This is a Mercedes. Mercedes have had electric cars for quite a while. You've never seen one in Australia. This is obviously a plug-in.
The exhaust pipe thingies in the bottom there.
Sorry?
Why has it got the exhaust pipe?
Oh, the exhaust pipes there. Yeah. It's actually a battery electric. It's not a hybrid. It's a pure electric, that car. So they're not an exhaust. I think you'll find they're backup lights or something, or fog lights, European fog lights or something like that. So that's a typical canal situation. Everything is socketed. There's no more tethered cables, and you can see why Australia is moving to that. Our experience already, we've finished putting in 4, 5, 9, 12 charging stations to Adelaide Airport, and we do the quarterly inspection for safety. 2 cables already have been of tethered type have been tripped up and broken and abraded. You can see why the reason is to get out of tethered cables. So it's all socketed and different buoys, of course. That was for Sally. I said to Chris, here's Sally's shot coming up. I know it's not a MEF, but it is towing a trailer. I thought it should be. These little rigs are everywhere. Some of them have a little gen set in the back. Others it's just portable for cargo carrying because they're small vehicles. They're everywhere. And notice everything runs on cobblestones. And,
Is that a camper trailer for midgets?
yeah, for midgets, that's it. Or you put your dog in there and, This is an interesting one. This is in the fjords. We did the Norwegian fjord cruise thing. I needed a holiday, so that's what we did. And these N200s, which is a Nissan vehicle, we saw a lot of those in Europe, an outstanding amount of them. This particular one was attached to the hotel, to Nissan, and it was one of probably a dozen in that little port. They're everywhere, those types of vehicles. We're going to see this. This has now been approved for Australia. We'll see that probably next year, and it's going to be used as Uber. There'll be the Uber are going to put them into Australia first. So there'll be black ones with shiny seats. Twizzies everywhere, all over. You can rent it by the hour. You can rent it by the day. Fun little vehicles, obviously, to have a drive. And this was just in one of the Norwegian fjord towns. And look at the number of them there. You think that's a lot. They just keep going, and they just sit outside in the rain and the slush, and half of them, the windows aren't even up, and you just swipe your card, hop in, and away you go. And it talks to you. It's called the talking car. So it knows where you are, the GPS knows where you are. So when you're geo-fenced, so you can't sort of drive off into some other country or drive too far away, so you run out of energy. So the geo-fencing stops you doing that. And it tells you all of the sightseeing things on the way and where the best coffee shops are and all that kind of stuff. They're real fun. They're real fun. Fast, quite surprising. Unstable, you betcha. Especially with two people that are trying to lean the wrong way. Yeah. Another fjord, another stop. There was 3 or 4 cars alongside, and one of them was one of those. This white building here was actually a tavern, so I went and had a beer, a Norwegian beer with the dude, and I said, hey, the little Renault out there, does it get much work? He said, oh, every day it's on the move, all the time. When do you plug it in? And I haven't shown you here, but there's a charging station around the side, so he keeps it topped up there. It's a 10 kilowatt battery.
Where was the photo taken?
Where was it taken? I just can't remember the name of that town. There's so many of them. And when you're doing that cruise, there's 35 ports we went into in 8 days.
It's interesting, the trees there.
Oh, the trees, yeah. Oh, look, this one was above the Arctic Circle. Yeah. Okay, I actually want to go back. I've missed a slide somewhere here that I know. That's Sally's. I'll email that to Sally. Sorry, I seem to have lost it. No, okay, all right.
One more. Keep going back one more.
Oh, yeah, okay. So that was the first objective, was to study the high-level infrastructure installed at Amsterdam Airport. So from a company point of view, and to justify my trip to the taxman, I needed to undertake quite a bit of work. And I had previously arranged with the airport management at Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam. Very big airport. It's the third largest in Europe now, which is really quite surprising. Hundreds of flights all day, just going and coming. They've done something very innovative, and cop this. They have banned internal combustion engine service vehicles from December this year on the airport. So no diesels, no petrols, only electric or fuel cell. And to support it, because obviously the taxi industry is huge, to support it, they've invested in 160 Tesla Model S. So you don't have a choice. You step out of the airport, straight into a Tesla taxi, and it takes you on a predetermined value to the downtown area, to the city. And you can book a return with the driver at a predetermined price, which is about half the rack rate if you didn't know about it. So they've got 160 Teslas. They get 4 trips a tank, and they've got 41 DC superchargers to kick them up again, and it takes 38 minutes. So while the driver is doing, he normally does his 2 or 3 or 4 trips, he might do a top up at the rank, or he might have his break of 30 minutes and a coffee, and the car's ready to go again. That is government support. You know, could you imagine that in Australia? In addition to the Teslas, they've got the S's, they've got 80 X's, they're rolling in now, and 48 Nissan Leafs, the old model Leaf. So that's the government commitment to the taxi industry. So you buy your Tesla licence from the government. Speaking with the drivers, I've learned quite a bit about how they've done it. It's not as though it's one company manages the whole thing. The government, the state manages. In fact, it's the Schiphol Airport Authority. They manage the taxi cabs. They're their cabs, and you are licensed to have that licence for 12 months, and you roll the licence each 12 months. So everybody gets a fair go at it. And the rates are fixed, as I said. The drivers have to be immaculately dressed, and they have to be courteous and polite, and they have to be English speaking as second language. They're really, you know, honed into the tourism business. So that was our Amsterdam Airport. I needed to study the way Norway went to market with electric vehicles. Norway's probably the most successful, Norway, Denmark are the most successful Scandinavian countries that have done a great job at electrification. And it's driven by government. You know, their dictation came down that by 2015, Norway would be 8% of the car park electric, and then ramping up. And when we were there, November last year, the figure was now at 28%. Their target is 50% by 2020. That's how aggressive it is. So you pay a huge import tax if you want a diesel Benz. You just basically buy 3 cars to get one. So if you want to buy a Benz electric, step this way, and here's all the incentives that go with it. Okay, so that's a serious view of how to control the world and emissions and so on. I needed to gain an impression of street level charging because we only see what we see in Australia, and I know there's lots of other alternates. However, level 2, type 2, which is the Mennekes plug, obviously in Europe it's about 95% of all the charge stations. And whilst we manufacture cables to convert 1772 to Mennekes for the BMW and other cars and Teslas, of course it's the other way around over there. So we found ourselves a nice little market because we actually export now to Europe our cables to convert type 1 back to type 2. So there you go. To see innovations at EVS and to chair a technical review panel. So those were the main objectives. Somehow all that got out of order. Here we go. So I've talked about lots of different, there's 4 different Mercedes at the time, and of course Mercedes have now said they're going to be second to Volkswagen. Volkswagen will have 80 electric cars, either mix of plug-in hybrid or pure battery electric by 2025, and they're reducing their numbers of diesel production and so on.
That's 80 models.
80 model cars. That's a model, yeah.
Do you happen to know anything about those Mercedes B-Series and that?
Look,
They're running on a Tesla powertrain?
the drivetrain is a Tesla design, but they're moving away from it because of the same problem that Tesla have got with the failures. This is the C, is that a C330, that one I think, or 350? There's a smaller one, there's the A's and the B's are very popular Mercedes. And of course then there's the smart cars, smart electrics and smart Fiats and so on. Okay, so we've done all that stuff. Yeah, they were good, they're good fun. Not sure how we'll get them registered in this country. It's going to be, it's not a perambulator, it's not a bicycle, it's not a tricycle. It does have doors that shut, and it's got windows that fall down, but you know, that's just the way, you know, mass produce the bubble. Yeah.
It's a golf cart.
It's a golf cart. Okay, so some stuff now that we're doing, and I'll wrap up on that because I wasn't meant to be speaking any more than 30 minutes. This is new developments that our company's been involved with. A mobile EV charger. Many years ago, in fact in 2010, I designed personally and we built 16 trailerable electric vehicle chargers, and we've used them with our AEVA events, the RAA one, for example. We've now gone to the second generation. We now use a lithium battery pack, and it's designed, the kit is designed to fit in the back of a Volkswagen Caddy or the Peugeot equivalent, or those little small rescue vans that are so popular in Europe. And as a consequence, we've now got we've designed it from the scratch. It is quite unique, and one of the features of our product is that you don't have to go back home and charge it up or back to a workshop. As the rescue vehicle is driving along, we actually charge the lithium battery packs, 224 volt packs, excuse me. We charge those up as we're driving along. So you could say it's almost perpetual motion in terms of keeping the battery pack alive. We've designed it for doing 3 EVs, battery electric vehicles, 3 EVs comfortably in 24 hours on the standard duty cycle. And we're looking at a lifetime of about 4 years in service. Obviously things will change, but yeah.
Has that got assistance for, has that got a use for motorsport applications, stuff like that, if people start to race EVs and that, do you reckon?
That's interesting. One of the clubs, we've taken orders, I'll just wrap that bit, we've taken orders, we've now shipped to Ireland, air freight to Ireland, you know, $12,000 this kit was. We've shipped to Ireland, Luxembourg, 2 into Amsterdam, France and Germany have just come through with their orders, so we're building 30 of these. They're worth about, round numbers, about 15 grand each, so it's quite a considerable chunk of business for us, and we're building them all at Powerfield Gardens. That's what it looks like. And the enthusiast industry picked up on it real fast, because you obviously get Formula E and those sorts of locations. You no longer have to have a mains outlet of 40 or 50 amp 3-phase and neutral. So we've got rid of that problem. So that's what the kit looks like. The brand EV is actually CLS. It's Club Logistics Services, and it's a joint venture between ARC from Paris or in Europe. It's Brussels based, and Club Logistics. So that's what we've ended up designing. The top unit is the control module, and the 2 battery packs are down below. Why 2 battery packs? Well, all up you're looking at 123 kilos here in weight. So we pulled the battery packs apart, and obviously the 2 24s which interconnect to give us the 48 volts that we need. This is an 10 kilowatt inverter, 8 kilowatt continuous. Continuous, folks, for 85 minutes. So we can charge on AEVA, which of course is everywhere in Europe, everywhere. Peugeot, Citroen brand, an occasional Mitsubishi, but everywhere. And those are the sorts of target markets. So we can deliver 50, 60, 70 kilometres of travel distance if you've got the time. But of course the club charges anything over 15 minutes. In 15 minutes we deliver 12 kilometres of travel distance. And so the 2 packs at the bottom, they're the battery packs, and the control module at the top, and the display, it shows what's happening, what percentage of charge that we've delivered, and what the current and the voltage and the watts is, and so on. That's another shot of it. The packs themselves.
Well,
Yeah, sorry, Roger.
is the RAA going to take up the...
I shouldn't.
What's the joke?
I shouldn't be like that. The RAA have already got one of our trailers that we built way back, and they've decided they don't want it, and they want to get rid of it. That was and fair due, it was a petrol-driven inverter, or petrol-driven alternator. But now with this quieter, there's no noise, of course, it's lithium. Yeah. Yep.
I noticed on the photograph there's a charging device sitting on each cell, and that looks very familiar to one that is available, I think, from EV Power.
Absolutely. We support Australian importers. Yeah. Why reinvent it? We haven't got time. I thought of Jan, actually. I'll have a chat to him later. But yeah, that's all. Those cells are just Cobalt cells. They're 180 amp hour Cobalt. Obviously, we get an outstanding price when you're buying 400 cells in a bot, in a drop. and we use his BMS and we use the macro. So yeah, no problem there. That's just a little bit of a view of the inside of the control box. Not sure if the laser works here. Yep. So there's the two devices that do the interface between the rescue vehicle and the charge pack, and they charge those battery packs at 24 volts and 80 amps. So that's why we can get all the high service level out of it. We make every piece of this together. We do the whole thing, the fabrication, the box, the steel work, the aluminium work, do the whole thing at Powerful Gardens. Oh, there we are. So that's a bit of a snapshot of Stuttgart. The theme in Japan is going back to fuel cell again, obviously, because that's where all the fuel cell vehicles that are functional are coming from. So there's going to be a high emphasis on fuel cell. So Phil and I will be pretty interested to see where that's going to go. And lastly, this unit here, because we said we wanted to go and look at all of the different EV charging infrastructures, nothing really excited. So we decided, we've got a client here, which is the Solar Garage at Tonsley. We're the project managers for all of the electrical infrastructure for that one and the charging. And instead of using a Schneider or Siemens or some other imported product, we decided to redesign electric vehicle charging stations level 2 ourselves, and in that bollard we can fit 2 of our stations. So one side will have the socket for the type 2, the other side will have tethered cable, and this is a screen that tells you what goes on between the 2 charging stations. Charge 2 cars at once or 4. We've got a larger bollard that will do 4, and we've decided to go into production ourselves and build the things ourselves. We're sick of all the nonsense and the stupid prices that are being asked for this sort of product. So you're seeing very early. I thought I'd just bring along and show you the mock-up, and that was accepted by the state government, Renew SA, and the Tonsley Group and Flinders Uni. So you'll see that one installed when we finish that project.
What have you decided to use for the external casing of that?
That's Skybond. Yeah, so it's aluminium sandwich.
You considered PVC pipe?
We consider the cost of PVC pipe is enormous.
Is it?
It's huge. It's $600 for one length of 300 mil. Yeah. So you know we can make this for, I won't tell you, but it's terribly cheap. Yeah. So, and this will be a proper fitting top panel, and the idea is we remove the top panel, undo 2 wing nuts, and slip the whole column away, and leave the chassis behind. We can work on it.
Okay.
That's it.
Any last questions for Bob? Okay.
Last question.
Unrelated question, Bob. Is the charger on a FEV waterproof? Or is it, can you charge
The one in the car is? You betcha. It's waterproof to 900 millimetres of flood.
So you can, when you plug it into the side of the FEV...
No, I'm not talking about the plug. You said the charger.
Oh, the plug, I mean.
Yeah.
Is the plug waterproof?
When it's in its casing, it's an IP54. That's about the best you'll get, because it's got an air gap around it. Huh?
So if it did rain...
Oh, IP54 is forced water pressure.
Yeah, okay.
So you can't have it plugged in and go and put the garden hose on it to wash it. Right? But the charger itself, that's in the bowels of the car, it's fully sealed to 900 millimetres of water, because that's its forging depth. Forging.
Thanks again, Bob.
Thanks, folks.